warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have Amitabh Kant, CEO of Niti Aayog, the government's premier policy think tank. Thank you for sharing your time out of your busy schedule in this day when we're dealing with this pandemic or probably the biggest disruption ever. In fact, I have my colleague Rahul Arora also who's with me on the show. Firstly, Mr. Kant, let me start off with a very interesting tweet that you put up. Read history all now cheaper than a bottle of Coke, and never imagined this crash and coronavirus would both happen in my lifetime. What is the impact that we are seeing of this?
Well, two things. One is, we've handled the situation of coronavirus extremely well. We took all the right measures at the right time because this pandemic, if would have spread across the country, particularly in rural areas, it would have had very, very severe repercussions. And our analysis shows that actually the level of coronavirus infection would have been about 44 times more. That's about 44,000% more. And therefore, it would have been huge. But stopping travel, domestic and international, stopping buses from flying, stopping, this Janta curfew and subsequently the lockdown have had huge impact. And therefore, we've got the lives part well. We've had, we've been able to save lives, unlike many of the European countries. And therefore, we've done that bit well. Now, my view is that we've started now doubling rate is about close to 12 and a half days now. Whereas at the peak in USA, Italy and Spain, it was 2.5 to 3 days. We've gone to about 12 and a half days and we're a very large country. 340 districts are almost clear with, they're in green zone. There's not even a single case. 253 districts have less than 10 cases. So we need to now get the livelihood part right, which is what the Prime Minister is pushing for. That's one challenge. That's the big challenge. And the second bit was that, the economic aspect of the whole crisis, and we are a very major importer of oil. We are a huge importer of oil. And therefore, prices of oil falling so sharply, while it has beneficial impact, it has huge beneficial impact, and nobody would have envisaged that at that particular point of time, the price would have fallen so low. It has other implications, and that implication is that we have a vast number of migrant workers in the Gulf region, and therefore their remittances are very enormous, and those remittances are likely to fall in a very, very huge manner. So when you have pluses on one side, you have a negative as far as remittances are concerned. And secondly, there's a whole challenge of reviving your economy in the midst of this crisis, because it's left several sectors in a very, very disastrous situation. Airlines, travel and tourism, manufacturing, many of these sectors are hugely impacted. And therefore, the challenge before the country will be to revive all these economic activities back again. And therefore, this will be a very, very prolonged effect.
Right. So, Mr. Kant, do you think that in the midst of this biggest ever disruption that we are seeing, there will be new normals, there will be permanent changes, but a lot of good challenges that are thrown up towards the economy, towards the government, towards corporates? Do you think we should be using this as an opportunity to drive these radical changes and use this opportunity to press the reset button?
Yeah. So two things. One is that there will be a new normal, and the new normal will be that, firstly, there will be, each one of us will have to maintain physical distance, not merely social. I would prefer to use the word physical distance. And we'll all be wearing masks. And secondly, for a long time, congregation of people for marriages, congregation for religious purposes will have to be done away with. There's no other alternative. So there will be a new normal, there will be a new way of existing. Secondly, I don't think coronavirus is going to go away. So isolation, contact testing, a whole lot of quarantine work, that will have to continue unabated, because you can't put everything at a stop. So while coronavirus may continue in some regions, the example of countries which have delivered was through exactly through tracing, testing, contact testing, and quarantining and treatment. And that is because you don't have a vaccine, there's no other solution, and that will have to continue. And that's critical. That'll be the new normal. But economic activities also need to get revived, because you should not be in a situation where we end up killing more people from from food shortage or from nutrition rather than from coronavirus. And this is very important, because we have to ensure that our children continue to get nutrition through Anganwadis, through schools, etc. And this is very, very critical. That's critical. And third, of course, is that as we go along, once you've closed down for such a long period, you have impacted, small shops, you've impacted medium and small industries. And because we've insisted that large companies continue to pay workers, etc., which is critical for equity, large companies also, and several sectors which have got impacted in a big way. So this whole scenario is a very, very tough one. But India is much better placed because it has taken tough measures. India is much better placed than any other country. And one of the key things is that this scenario, present scenario, really calls for major structural reforms in the economy. And this is a huge number of structural reforms across several sectors. And we should use this crisis as an opportunity to really push reforms.
Mr. Kant, good afternoon. Good to be speaking with you. So you've already elucidated to some very important points about it being a long, drawn-out battle, and various industries like aviation, tourism, manufacturing that have seen the brunt of this. What is the thinking in the government with respect to the immediate solutions that we can have on offer as soon as the economy starts reviving, short term, medium term, as well as long term? Because it's been quite it's been quite some time in the coming that there would probably be an economic package that comes out to address the employers of these migrant workers, but that hasn't come through. So if you could just share some light on how you're approaching these short term, medium term, and long term challenges for the industries under stress, and how you hope to revive the economy as a whole when you take a long term view.
So this is, the government actually has acted immediately. First of all, it provided a welfare package for workers, for, self-help groups, for women, many of the people who live below the poverty line. And that was critical to ensure that the welfare package has an impact on the livelihoods of people. And that was a 1.70 lakh crore package. The second challenge was in the economy, on which the RBI has come out with two different packages, very strong ones. And also today it has intervened again with a 50,000 intervention for mutual funds, and therefore RBI has been very, very active. Now, whatever the government does will have to be a very, very calibrated approach, firstly for the MSME sector, and secondly, look at what is feasible for certain sectors of the economy. And therefore the government is working on that. Some things will have to be done in partnership with the states as well. And therefore, one must understand the limitations of Indian economy, because our economy was not really flourishing before this crisis started. And whatever measure you do, whatever measures you take in terms of breaching the fiscal deficit target to a higher extent, or you raise resources from outside, it has huge implications in terms of credit rating agencies. Indonesia has just been downgraded. South Africa was downgraded. Mexico was downgraded just last week. And therefore, whatever we do have to be done in a lot of thinking, a lot of interaction with many of these agencies, and also with the perspective that we need to ensure, first and foremost, take care of the informal workers, take care of livelihood issues, take care of MSMEs, and then look at certain sectors where help is required. So all these are challenges. It's not an easy solution. The government is working on that. But I think whatever is done, and I think the finance ministry is working on this in a big way, but whatever is done, I would like to say that one thing the crisis opens up is a huge number of tough reforms which are normally not feasible. I mean, reforms across agriculture, reforms across labor, reforms across manufacturing, reforms across financial sector, a huge number of reforms. It is feasible to do them now, which were not feasible earlier. And that is what we should push for. Because you can do any package right now for an interim period, but if you don't make your economy competitive and efficient for the long run, it'll be very difficult for India to grow over the next 2 to 3 decade periods. And this is, to my mind, the key, making India efficient over a long-term period.
Mm. So, Mr. Kant, you touched on 2 points on which I just want to labor a bit. One is the fiscal deficit issue. What is the thinking within the government? I mean, how far can you stretch this is the first question. And the second is, you spoke a lot about MSMEs at length right now. How do you ensure seamless flow of credit so that they can take care of their mismatches at their levels because of the fact that they're such large employers in the country? So if you could address both of these parts individually.
Yeah, so, I don't want to get into details of what the government thinking is right now, because the finance ministry is working on it. And I think the finance minister will announce a package shortly. So to, precede that with my comments will be both, bureaucratically totally incorrect to dwell on that at length. But my personal view is that it's not, it's the whole focus cannot be on fiscal imbalance alone. Whatever we do, we have to breach the limits. But breaching the limit also needs to be done with a certain level of discipline and done with a perspective of a medium term. It's not about this year, but a medium term, and spell it out, saying that we are breaching this with this perspective of getting back to that. But we believe in fiscal discipline, but this is an extraordinary situation. And therefore, over a 3-year period, we will do a series of reforms in the Indian economy, which will ensure that we get a huge amount of revenue back into the Indian economy. And therefore, breaching the fiscal deficit target, but accompanying that with a series of forward-looking steps for the next 3 years, and saying how India will become a more competitive and efficient economy will be the right approach to take. And therefore, a lot of work needs to be done in driving reforms along with it.
Right. Mr. Kant, we've been talking about a relief package that could be in the offing. But if, as a government body, if as Niti Aayog, you have to identify that which could be the priority sectors which actually need the help, which would they be if you have to top the first 5?
So I think the first and foremost would be the informal worker. And because they have suffered a lot, and India has a lot of informal workers. And therefore, you need to take care of them. In countries like UK and Singapore, etc., what the government has done is said that we provide 75 to 80% of the wages, the balance alone the company needs to provide. So that is critical. This is informal workers is critical. Secondly, I think one must understand that the medium and small industries really been choked, and it'll be a huge tragedy if, as a consequence of this, the MSME sector is badly impacted, and therefore we need to support MSMEs, not merely through credit, working capital, and many other things, but also ensure that there's adequate flow of resources for the next 2 to 3 years for the MSME sector as well. That is important. And the third to my mind is that, a lot of NBFCs actually, the Indian economy is essentially is being driven because banks had over a period of time become quite risk averse, other than the highest rated bonds. They're quite risk averse. So NBFCs, HFCs, and they have been very, very vibrant. And therefore, we need to take care of NBFCs and HFCs as well. And now there's this new crisis of mutual funds where the RBI has stepped in already. And fourthly, I think looking at key sectors which have been impacted, because some of them are large job creating sectors like travel and tourism, badly impacted, aviation, badly impacted, and they're going to continue to get impacted for quite some time. So you need to do a sector by sector analysis, which has been done by Niti Aayog, to say which sectors require what help. And it's also important to say that this needs to be done because this is a totally extraordinary situation. And we need to ensure that if we are able to provide help in the right measure is critical, because if we provide the right measure, the requirement number of companies becoming non-performing assets will be much lower than if we delay it, or if we don't do it, the implication will be much larger on a later date. And therefore, we strongly believe that we need to support the Indian workers, Indian MSMEs, and certain sectors of Indian economy.
Right. Mr. Kant, three sectors I want to touch upon. One is automobile. You talk about infrastructure, agriculture. So automobile taking manufacturing into consideration as well. These are the backbone of the Indian economy right now. Now, the number of people it employs is huge. Now, if there is a delay in any relief package coming in from the government for these sectors, what happens? Because layoffs and salary cuts have already begun in some sectors. Yes, we have the government which is urging, the corporates not to do so, but it's not in their hands as well. And you have big corporates too who are not immune to salary cuts. Like, for example, you have Bajaj Auto, who's already asked its factory employees to take some percentage of cut in terms of salaries, though they've not pressed the red button yet. But how do they sustain? I mean, how quickly could we expect something from the government?
So, as I said, the finance ministry is already working on it. It's at a very advanced stage, and I'm quite sure that in the next couple of days, you'll hear of a package for the MSME, and secondly of the sectors subsequently. And I don't think I'm going to get into the terrain which the finance minister is responsible for, and I'm quite sure will give a very positive response to that in a couple of days. So I think better to have patience is a virtue, and I think we should wait for that to happen. But my personal view is that these are, certain, it's, because you have a limited amount of resources available, but it's not that you have unlimited resources. The challenge for any government would be that if you allow the fiscal deficit to balloon out of control now, it'll be very difficult to bring discipline on a later date. So you have to do the right things in the right measure and hit the right people. And I think the challenge there is to first ensure livelihood for people. Because several migrant workers, informal workers, all that is very critical. Secondly, you have to ensure that you are able to create adequate health capacity in the states, and therefore states need to be supported. And thirdly, you need to ensure, because MSME is a very large, vibrant sector, they need to be supported. And fourthly, as I've been repeatedly saying, rather than looking at companies, look at sectors and do a sectoral analysis and say which sectors have got most affected. Everybody, you have limited kitty, you can't provide it to every single company. It's not feasible, not practical. Many of the measures which needed to have been taken on the monetary policy side have actually been taken by the Reserve Bank of India, both for real estate and many other sectors. Vast number of, leeway has been given by the RBI for companies which have been impacted by the COVID. And one must realize this, they've actually injected over 3.5% of GDP already in the Indian economy.
Mr. Khan, that point is well made and well taken as well. But, if I just labor on this point of the RBI a little bit more, I mean, in an environment where there is a crisis of confidence and there is, a serious thrust to revive demand in a big way, I don't know how much of a role interest rates actually play in that, given the sentiment. So is there a thought on how to address the demand side of the economy almost immediately? No. I understand you said there is a short, medium and long-term target, but even if your interest rates head even lower from here, but the sentiment doesn't revive, it's not going to do much to revive demand, is it?
No, so I am a believer that you need a double track action of both monetary and fiscal policy. The monetary policy has a lot of limitations in this moment, but a lot of measures have been taken on the monetary side. On the fiscal side, measures on the welfare side have been taken, and I think we should wait for other measures to happen. I mean, I'm quite sure it will be a very, very calibrated response to this crisis. It's not that government is a silent, passive spectator. The government is doing a lot of homework around it. What the government is trying to do is to put out a right package with the right reforms. And I think that is what needs to be done at this time. Sometimes you do things in a hurry and repent later. It's better to do the right measure, the right reform.
Fair point, Mr. Anand. It's sort of a two-part question now. You said it's better to break down things sector by sector. And do understand that you do not want to second guess the finance minister whenever she decides to roll out the second package. But in terms of the recommendations that you have provided to her, the Niti Aayog, say for industries like aviation, hospitality, travel and tourism, what specifically are those? That's part one. And the second part is in the National Investment Plan or the NIP. There was a huge emphasis on private players having a big role to play in the National Investment Plan. Given that construction activity has pretty much come to a halt and you may see a rise in NPAs, would you not see a scale back from private investment in infrastructure, and how would the government look at sort of coming in and bridging that deficit?
No, I don't think there's a shortage of private investment at all. If your government is to put out existing brownfield investments into market, I mean, if you were to put out a lot of roads, new airports, if you were to put out transmission lines, if you were to put out a railways, trains, if you were to put out railway stations in the market for private sector to come in, I have a feeling that you'll get a lot of investments. Even at the crisis time, you put out 6 airports before the elections, and you had a very, very overwhelming response. It's not that there is lack of liquidity in the world. There's a huge amount of liquidity. People are looking for the right investment, but they are not looking for greenfield investments. They're looking for brownfield investments. And India is sitting on brownfield investments. Actually, what India should really do is to target a huge amount through asset monetization. It should put out a lot of its completed assets in private sector domain and bring private sector. And this will be the fastest route to raising resources and making India a more efficient economy. This is really the key to moving forward. Sell your assets, which are completed or even partly complete, and get private sector investment in a very big way.
And to the first part of that question, Mr. Kant, your specific recommendations that you have given the finance minister for the areas under trouble.
We've made very, very specific recommendations. We've looked at what the economy requires and which sector. We've done a very detailed analysis. We've made that available to the finance minister and to the finance ministry. And that's something which I'd not like to talk about in public domain.
Right. Mr. Kant, overall as well, when we've been talking about the backbone sectors of the economy, do you think as a policy initiative, it would be important or justified to go ahead, create a sovereign fund that would probably focus on infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, get, subsequent committees as well to create public-private sector entity and drive investments through this, because we will need to restart somewhere and get the entire ecosystem in tandem with each other?
So the fastest way, as I said, is if you were to sell off government assets, if you were to sell off, what will you do? You'll attract private sector. Private sector will bid and get it. You will have, when the private sector comes in, credit flow will start. Banks will start lending. And that's the route which needs to be adopted. Greenfield investments will be slow to take off and immediately. But we've come out already vis-a-vis investments from China. The government has already come out with a policy for electronic and mobile manufacturing, which is a very, very attractive policy. And hopefully you should see some big ticket investments in that. We've come out with a policy for medical devices, and we've come out with a policy on agricultural, on active pharmaceutical ingredients, a lot of which we used to import from China so that they could all be made in India. And therefore, these are new sectors of growth which we envisage. But we are looking at a couple of more packages where India has a competitive advantage and can quickly get investments from companies which are moving out of China.
Right. With that, a lot of sectors have been making representations to Niti Aayog as well with regards to their demands, especially if you talk about the hospitality space, or even for that matter, even the smallest of the smallest sector. Could you highlight for us 1 or 2 instances where you think where the demands are absolutely not doable by the government? Because yes, even the government is in a tight situation. If you see in terms of where the financial ability is concerned, yeah, we are not as good as probably the other developed nations. But what is it that is not going to be givable by the government, according to you, from the
challenge we must understand is that all companies are asking for all kind of things. It's not possible simply because government has limited resources.
Correct.
And there are only 2 ways. I mean, either gets more resources from RBI or prints more money. And those are the challenges. But you do it, you have challenges of either credit rating agencies or of, inflation on a later date. So all that has to be balanced in the right format and in the right component to ensure that we do this. I gave you example of several countries getting downgraded. So the credit rating agencies are also very trigger happy. I mean, as journalists, you'll find it very easy, but when you're sitting in the government, it's a very, very tough call to take. Because tomorrow, if you're downgraded by credit agencies, then you have a huge implication for resources which come into the country on a later date. And it'll be very difficult to attract FDI and FII on a later date. So that's why I'm saying that government is doing a lot of considered thinking on this. And I think we should wait for that.
Right. I'm going to take a follow-up over here. Very interestingly, you said that, not being a devil's advocate here, that yes, we are pretty much well off as compared to other nations, because overall, if you see China, we've already seen a 20% decline in the manufacturing output from China so far. Whereas I was just reading a report that India's decline in real activity actually started in July 2019. It accelerated slightly in 2020. But the consensus forecast is predicting India's GDP growth to be in the range of around, say, 3%, which is going to be way better than the developed nations, which are seen at a negative percentage as well. So agree with your point on that yes, we are far better placed versus other nations. But to reach that level, do you think we are, as a country, as a government, as corporates, moving in the right direction? Or do you think there are certain things that as corporate bodies, as individuals, need to be done rightly?
No, we are moving in the right direction because first of all, it was important to flatten the curve. If we had not flattened the curve, then you would have had huge exponential growth of the coronavirus, and it would have been very difficult because we would not have got the time to ensure that we had PPE, testing kits, hospital beds, etc. We managed to flatten that curve, and that's important, and that gave us time to get all the equipment, etc., etc. And therefore, we've saved lives. If we had not saved lives, there would have been a huge amount of demoralization in the country. So first and foremost, countries which try to save lives it's very important in a democracy to save lives. Countries which try to save their economy have not been able to save their economy and have not been able to save lives also. So it's important that, if you look at Europe, they've been impacted in terms of lives and economy both. But in India's case, we saved lives, and now we are determined to save the economy in a good way and take it on again to a high trajectory growth rate. And that is what we'll do. But we'll do it in a sensible, rational manner, in a calibrated approach, because you will require many rounds of assistance and support to the industry of India.
You spoke a little bit about moving the supply chains from China to India, Mr. Khan. Is there anything more that the government of India needs to do by way of incentivizing companies to move?
Yeah. So first and foremost, in the long run, India needs to make itself very, very competitive, very, very efficient. And this will require our ports to become efficient. It will require our, number of forms to go. Ease of doing business will have to improve. Land, labor laws will have to improve. Without that, India can't. You can't compete. You have to become inherently a more efficient and a more competitive economy. You can't, that's the crux of it. And that we must understand, that this will require hard-headed radical reforms. But in the interim period, we've rolled out some schemes, as I said, about API, medical devices and mobile, and we'll roll out 4 or 5 sectors more to ensure, to activate supply chains. But one thing is for sure, that supply chains will move out of China. It will be very difficult for supply chains to remain in China for a long period of time. Investors and companies and countries will look for alternative destinations.
Who, according to you, are we directly competing with at this point?
I think basically Vietnam, but Vietnam has limitations in terms of its size and scale and the number of laborers available. So if we get our act right, which we should, that's critical, that over a period of time, it should be India.
Okay. Mr. Kant, just one final question from my side. Is it too early to start looking at the revenue side for the government already? I mean, with GST collections possibly falling short of where they should be, the market itself, the Nifty was at 12,500 about 3 months back. We had a fall all the way to 7.5. We're at about 9.5 right now. Does it put a few disinvestments under the cloud in terms of what the government would have, say, realized had these processes taken place about 3 months back? So is it too early to start looking at the revenue side, or are you starting to get a bit concerned and therefore you are saying that you cannot let your fiscal math slip out of control?
No, no, government constantly on a regular basis looks at revenue flows. It looks at it on a daily basis. And that's the challenge. Revenue is a challenge this year. Hopefully things should improve in the coming months. But that's no reason not to disinvest, and that's no reason why we should not bring reforms. You need more of reforms than anything else, and only reforms will give you more and more revenue over a period of time.
Right. Mr. Kant, a couple of questions that are pouring in as well. The first question is, what are the near-term measures that we should be taking to accelerate growth when lockdown opens up?
So one is, I think, as we open up with mandatory conditions of, having physical distancing, masks, etc., and ensuring that we do not allow the coronavirus to spread in any manner, we should do 3 shifts. We should allow people to work 24/7. And that's important. And we should ensure that our ports start functioning, and we are able to move our goods out for exports. Exports are a very, very critical input into this.
Right. And the secondly is, how is the government actually planning to bridge the deficit that would have been caused due to COVID disruption?
So the challenge is that you have to act on both the expenditure side and on the revenue side. You'll have to cut down a lot of your expenditure, and a huge amount of expenditure will have to be cut to ensure that. And that's number one. And number two, look at bring in better revenue efficiency and see what more we can collect over a quick period of time. But I think the important thing is, as I've been repeatedly stressing through this interview, is that this is an opportunity for massive and huge reforms in Indian economy, and we should really radically push for reforms.
Right. Overall, taking oil also, which is one of the major commodities which we've been importing, do you think this could be used as an opportunity to improve our storage capacity? Do something on that front, so again, helps us on the fiscal end as well?
No, so we are already doing that. We are aware of this. Oil is at an all-time low, and we are taking measures for this.
Right. Another question, Mr. Kant, is how could we make in India better? What can be done better on this front? Because this is a great opportunity for us to reset, but how could we take advantage of it?
Well, I talked about it. You see, in India, what happens is we keep subsidizing the agriculture sector, but we keep taxing the manufacturing sector. And your electricity, your land costs, your water charges on manufacturing are very high compared to others. Whereas we keep subsidizing agriculture. And if you want a manufacturing, then states will have to realize that you have to provide inputs at the right price points. If you do not provide inputs at the right price points, you will not be a competitive nation. And secondly, I think size and scale of manufacturing is critical. Right now, we are not doing size and scale. We need to bring in massive scale and size so as to reduce the cost of manufacturing very low. You have to be a big player in the global supply chain, and that will happen only when we allow size and scale to happen.
Mr. Kant, just dropping back in for a moment, you said there'll be cutback on expenditures. Yeah, I'll just make this really quick. You said there'll be cutback in expenditures. Could you highlight specifically what the government is looking at in terms of expenditure cuts?
No, so the government is already, I mean, it's, all the government officers, for instance, have given their salary, all the government commissions have cut out their 30%. There's a little bit of cut on DAs, etc. All that is fair. In this moment of crisis, I think everyone will have to chip in. Government new schemes will have to stop. Many radical things will have to be done to push this.
Right. And Mr. Kant, my last question coming to you is, what's the view that you hold on banks being risk averse and NBFCs and housing finance companies who are unable to get funding further? Many of them are on the verge of closing. What's your quick view on it?
So RBI has cut down the reverse repo to 3.75%. And the banks should become more and more active as far as lending is concerned, because unless and until we don't provide credit, saying that we'll only provide credit only for AAA rated companies or AAA rated bonds would do a lot of damage to this country. And I think what we need to do is really ensure that at least the public sector banks put their money out in, take a little more risk, because now all other issues have been taken care of. The bank's ability to lend is very critical. Our overall private debt to GDP ratio is very low in India. We are amongst the countries with the lowest private debt to GDP ratio. And that's why it's important that debt is pushed out into the market. And this is critical. No country has grown without private debt. Japan, China, Korea have all grown on the back of private debt. In our country, private debt to GDP ratio is far lower than any of these countries. And that's what the banks must understand.
Right. All right, Mr. Kant, it's a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for sharing your valuable time in these times. I wouldn't say stay home, stay safe. I know you're working, I think, almost 24 hours of the day, but everyone's expecting a lot, and hopefully the government will be able to meet everyone's expectations in somewhere or the other. But thank you, everyone who's joined the show as well. Stay home, stay safe, and please follow the orders that are being provided by the government as well. Thank you, Mr. Kant.